and welcome to the 7th episode of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Lisbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about, well, let's face it, it's basically about knitting. Sometimes I do other crafts as well, but usually my main focus is definitely knitting. As you will see this week, because I think I only have knitting contest this week. Well, thank you so much for joining me or checking me out. If this is your first time watching, I really appreciate you taking some time to do that. It really means a lot that you take some time to, well, view what other people are creating, and that's really nice. So yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, let's start with the actual content of this podcast episode, I guess. Let's start with what I'm wearing, because that's what I do best. Talk about what I'm wearing first. No elephants in the room, I don't do that. Well, you have seen this top before, I think. It is my Agnes top, a pattern by Tilly and the Buttons. It is made out of this cheapy Megan Blue fabrics, I think it is. I just love the little sheep. They make me so happy. Although they kind of remind me of pajamas sometimes. But, I'm fine wearing pajamas all day. I mean, I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I like this shirt. I like it a lot. And the weather is improving so much. It has been about 12 to 14 degrees outside. That is Celsius. I don't know Fahrenheit. I'm not even going to guess because it will probably be just silly. But if you really want to know what it is in Fahrenheit, it is, well, I think Google is your best bet. Or whatever search engine you like. Yeah, anyway, it is been lovely weather. There's been quite a bit of rain, but apart from that, it has been good enough to walk home without coat on this week, so that's been very good. I was still wearing a wool sweater that day, so there you go. Anyway, enough about weather. Apparently, not only English people are very good at talking about the weather, Dutch people can be too. Yay! So that's what I'm wearing. Let's jump into what I've been up to this week. And let's start with a project that you have been hearing about from me for some time now, but you haven't actually seen it. And I have finally brought it home from the office, and it is the socks that I am knitting for my boyfriend. Yeah, there's not that much progress on here. I told you it was not much more than a toe, and it was probably going to stay that way. But this is how I knit my socks. I knit them toe up. I have this thread sticking out all the time. In the beginning, it reminds me like when I am at the right side to start doing increases. You can see that I don't make them rounded or anything. I just increase every other round until I'm at my desired width. And then I knit the foot up straight until the point that I have to increase for the gusset. This is some Regia yarn. I don't remember the colorway, but I will put it in, I guess, in the downwear. You will see it. Yeah, so this is what I've been knitting on, and there's not much progress, which basically means that I've been very good at the office. I mean, let's face it, I am at the office to work, to study, not to knit. It's just in those brainy spaces that I find myself having some time to work on it. But actually, if I'm not knitting on it, it usually means that I'm making progress on my project, and that's good as well, I guess. So, yay! A pair of socks, and you can finally see that it is very slow progress. So, let's jump right into my second work in progress, and this one you've heard me talk about before as well. No new cast on this week. And this is my Valdres sock. And to be honest with you, I haven't made any progress on it until this morning. Today is Friday, March 30. And today is also known as Good Friday because it's the Easter holiday weekend. I don't know if you celebrate it, you may be celebrating it. I don't know. Anyway, it means that university is closed, so I have a day off, and it is amazing. It is so good to have some extra time to just sit back and relax and enjoy like being at home. Like I've been at home quite a lot recently because of illness, and now I'm just at home and feeling good, and that's a whole different thing. Like you can allow yourself to really relax and of course also do all the household chores like doing laundry and that kind of stuff. That also has to happen, but you know, it is good to have a day off. Well, I put in my progress keeper and this is how much I've been knitting on it this morning while I was listening to a podcast. It was actually one, and I've already forgotten the name, but I think Amy from the Stranded podcast referred to this episode in her most recent episode. And it is the one, it is, I think, an audio podcast where the lady behind Contest Ablaze was sharing her thoughts on exposure as a means of payment. And I must say, I am kind of shocked by what people assume that they can just get done for free, like, and then put charity as an excuse on it. It's crazy. Anyway, if you're interested, I will probably link to this episode of the podcast, of which I can't even remember the name, and they have 107 episodes out already, so maybe I should have been remembering them. But then again, I'm not really an audio podcast person. I usually just watch video podcasts. I watch quite a few of them, amongst which the Stranded podcast, of course. Anyway, so not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my knitting. I mean, if you wanted to hear about other podcasts, you would probably watch those podcasts, I guess. Well, whatever. Anyway, so a teeny tiny bit of progress on my Phildar Knestrømper. The most exciting thing actually that happened on this sock is last weekend I decided, no, I don't want to, like, I had one skein of the white yarn and two skeins of the grey yarn, and I felt like I'm going to make two socks out of those three skeins, and that will be it. But as you maybe will see, I have a new skein of the opal sock yarn. It's probably not the same dye lot, or I don't know, it's called natural, so maybe it's not dyed at all, but then still it's probably not exactly the same color. Anyway, I decided that I will not carry around my scales and wait until I hit the 50 grams point, because it's a 100 gram skein on this yarn, and I will just make it knee-high socks, because let's face it, I really like knee-high socks and I want them to become knee-high socks, and it will take me forever probably to make those, because as you can see, my progress is really slow on these, but it's okay, it's growing and it will eventually get done. Well, there's been a very tiny project that I've been working on a little bit this week as well, and actually I've been working on it weeks ago, but together with the ladies from the knit group, we've been making a bouquet out of crocheted flowers for someone in the knit group who, well, has some medical issues, and we wanted to send her flowers for it, but we didn't want to send her an ordinary bouquet because we are a yarn related group anyway, and most of us know how to crochet, so we decided let's make her a bouquet. And I forgot to take even a photo, so I can't show you, but I basically crocheted a tiny rose, red rose, and also the green back part, and then we stuck all those flowers on old knitting needles, like the really long stiff ones, some of them with I don't know, how do you call the end of a knitting needle, like the round part on the end? I don't know. Well, anyway, we used old knitting needles and made a bouquet out of it, and it's stunning. Like, to see what it does if there are so many different flowers, because everyone just got like the assignment or the little task to make one flower. Of course, only if you wanted to. I mean, if you don't want to support that, you didn't have to. But I think most of us did. Maybe only the people who don't even know how to crochet held back a little. I don't know. Anyway, not here to talk about that, I guess. But we made a bouquet, and it's turning out lovely. And I won't have an opportunity to show a picture of it anymore because it is gone, so I can't show it. Why am I talking about this anyway? I don't know, because I did it. And I feel like this is not only something that I can show you, it's also something that I can share with you. And I think it's a really lovely idea to make something for yourself that will, for someone else, that is going to last that long. Like just giving a regular bouquet of flowers is a very nice gesture, I guess, but this can be something that's going to be lasting, so that's nice. And really, I've been working on only one more project this week, and you will probably know which one it is. And it is my blanket. So I hope you are not fed up with the blanket that is like these kind of squares for the border. I don't know if I've shown you this finished square already, but this is only one loose square that I have. I've not been working on this week. I've been working on the rest of my blanket, and it has grown quite significantly. I don't know how well you will be able to see how big it is, because it is basically bigger than the space that I'm trying to film in. But last week I was on this blue square. I think that was the last thing that I had finished before I started recording a podcast last week. Then I finished all of like these squares, like this entire row below wasn't there last week, and as you can probably guess, if the row below wasn't there, then this entire row is new as well. So I made a lot of progress on this blanket, and I've added 4 more squares here, so I've knit 2 entire rows for my blanket, which is equal to, I think, 1/18 of the blanket has been done in just this last week. And I can imagine that it's a bit boring to hear me talk about the same blanket all the time, but to me it is really such an achievement to have been working so much on such a big project. I think knitting well, a 4x4 set of these squares, like this much, is like the equivalent of knitting 1.5 sock for me. So if I'd had 1.5 sock, I'd be yay, almost done, have almost finished project, and very happy about it. And it's sometimes hard when you're working on a project like this to celebrate like all the mini achievements that you get, but I'm over the halfway point between a half and a third of the blanket, so between a third and a half of the blanket. It's actually like a third of the height it will be now on most parts. This side section is actually half the length of the blanket, so I think it's like almost 2 meters, like a yard tall. It will be 2 yards by 2 yards, slightly more than that, after it's blocked, because it will still grow a bit when it's washed. And it feels like such an achievement, and it's so weird. As a podcaster, I've been feeling a bit guilty about this, and I don't want this to happen, so I've been stubbornly going on and on my blanket anyway. But it feels like when you're podcasting, you should have a lot of different projects you can talk about, like to create some content for your podcast, but I feel like it is such an achievement. Like, I've made so much progress, and I think monogamy in knitting is definitely not a bad thing. It just means that your projects actually get finished, and is very nice to work this much on it. But it feels like I have very little content, because basically what I've done is just knitting a whole bunch of squares that are all very, very similar. But then again, that's what I did, so why not share it? As you can see, on the first row I've been very good. I've woven in all the ends on the row below. And in the second row I kind of lost that mojo. I've started out quite good until like here, and then I didn't weave in any ends. It's something that I wouldn't say hate with passion, but it's definitely not my favorite task to do. Actually, yesterday evening, there was someone at the knit group who was actually more of a crocheter than a knitter, and she didn't know how to weave in, and she just finished knitting an entire sweater, but she didn't know how to weave in an end. That felt kind of weird to me, like finishing such kind of huge project, but I've shown her how to do it, so I think I've woven in one end somewhere around here. I think it was the white one here that is already finished. Yay, one more down, one less to go. Yay! I don't know why I decided to cut this blanket in so many tiny squares, because it means so much more ends to weave in, but it's okay. I really enjoy working on this blanket. So that's basically it for what I've been crafting this week. But then yesterday I got a very lovely surprise. The lady who's a designing friend of mine, Sandra, she surprised me with some yarn that she was destashing, and yeah, so I got some new yarn for free. Yay! It was very nice. It was a kind of thank you for test knitting, I guess. And she had seen me work with orange, and so I got some leftovers from yarn that she had knit a sweater with. It is Phildar 3.5, Laine 3.5. It's pure wool. It's, I think, like 108 or 109 meters per 50 grams. 108. So I've got a few skeins of this. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I think they're going to be a part of the next rainbow project after this huge beast is done. Because orange, even though as a Dutch person, you know, orange is our national color. I don't like that type of really screaming bright orange, probably because I've seen too much of it, because like with every major soccer match, people tend to dress up entirely orange, and there's flags decorating the streets and everything, even though I think the Dutch soccer team is performing pretty poorly at the moment, although the ladies are not. They became European champion, I think, last year. Anyway, this is not a soccer podcast. I don't really like soccer anyway. But this kind of more rusty orange, I really like that kind of orange. So it may become a part of the next rainbowy project, because even on its own, I think it's okay for me, but not my favorite, I think. Anyway, I will probably give it some good use at some point. And then something that I'm very excited about is this lace skein. There was no tag on it, or I haven't found it. And she said that she would never use such thin yarn. She was thinking like maybe Help Double I could, but no, I'm probably not going to use it. So I really like my light blues. I like blue in general. I think there's hardly a color of blue I think that I really don't like. And I love how this lacy color is so light. Like, it could be something really fresh for in summer and so soft. But I think that I will make something out of this with beads on it. I've made a few beaded projects in the past, all lacy beaded projects, and I think I want to do that again. Although it's really something for summer for me, because like this doesn't keep me warm when I'm knitting with it. I don't know what the content is, but I'm going to guess that it's probably something like the drops lace, so then it will probably be something like alpaca and silk. Feels like it could be, but then again, what do I know about yarns and their content, because there's so many possibilities. Sometimes you're really sure what kind of yarn it is, and sometimes I just don't know. There's also something weird, like I think it's weird that this skein came without a label, and it's from a destash, so naturally it could be without a label. It's fine, but I think that's weird. And when I go about fabrics, when I go to a fabric store, there's hardly a fabric store that actually tells you what kind of fabric it is. I mean, you can sometimes find cotton, but if it's not 100% cotton, you're generally at a loss as to what kind of fibers are used in fabrics, and I think that's kind of weird actually. Anyway, enough about that rant. I would like the fabric industry, I guess, to make that more clear for us users of those products, like what are we actually using. Sometimes it's just very difficult to see or feel, and especially for beginners like me who don't have a lot of experience in whether things are silk or cotton or some kind of polyester or whatever. We won't know, and if you keep on not telling us, then we will probably never know, although we might really see that things are very similar to things we've used in the past. But still, it's weird not to tell us. Anyway, and then there was one final thing that I've been given, and I am really happy with this one because it's Alafos Hespu-Lopi Icelandic yarn, and I've been given slightly more than one skein, well, almost 2 skeins I think of this, and I really love it. And my boyfriend came home yesterday and he saw that I had gotten this yarn, and he felt like, oh, you can throw that straight into the trash bin, like what an ugly color. And I was like, no, this is a very pretty color. Maybe it would be a bit boring if it became a sweater, even though I would totally wear a sweater in these colors. I mean, neutrals all the way. I think he wants me to walk around like a rainbow all day, but I can imagine why he would get more cheerful from that. But sometimes you just want neutral color or have a neutral color as a part of some bigger project. But actually, I think that I'm going to knit something like a teddy bear out of this yarn. I mean, isn't this like the perfect color for a teddy? I think, by the way, this is color 85, but I'm not really sure because this is where the color and the colorway number and the dye lot number are supposed to be printed, but they have faded away almost entirely. So I think it's 85, but it could also be 35. I'm not sure. That doesn't really matter because I only have these 2 skeins, and I probably will never be able to get the same dye lot anyway. But I visited Iceland once, I think in 2005, and even though I knit at the time, I actually bought yarn in the supermarket there, but it was cotton yarn, and I decided to knit and crochet tiny garments for a stuffy that I brought along. Crazy story. Anyway, I did that at the time. And now that I am a knitter, I feel so silly for going there and buying needles and cotton yarn from Iceland. Like, if you are a knitter and you go to Iceland, you're not going to want to buy just the most basic needles and cotton yarn that they have imported from somewhere else to knit with. But little did I know that I would become so addicted to knitting later on. I don't think it was 2005, it was 2012 or something. Whatever. 2011, I think. Anyway, it is just crazy that I never got around to buying Icelandic yarn before. And I really like the idea of having some Icelandic yarn in my stash, so I'm really happy with this one. Yeah. So that's it for my stash enhancements this week, and it's not my fault. I've been given this, so you know, I'm very happy with it. There's one more thing, and it's also part of like wanting to get more of a conversation going with my viewers. Like, I think so far I've had like one comment on one of my videos, and I would like to have more of an interaction. This is not supposed to put any pressure on any of you guys. Like, you don't have to respond or do anything with my videos or whatever, especially since I have a small pool of viewers at this moment. I don't want to put any pressure, but I just would like you to know that if you feel like communicating about what you have been doing, or if you've been doing anything similar, or if you have any suggestions, like, do you feel like it would be a good idea to have a knit along, and if so, for what kind of project, well, please feel free to leave a comment or get in touch with me on Ravelry or on YouTube, or send me an email. My contact details will be at the end of the video. I think I like what I did with that last week. I like put on my little bit of guitar intro at the end again, and then show my details there. I am kind of like it, but maybe you're also working on some kind of long-term project like a blanket, and you would like to have a place to chat about that, or maybe you are also struggling with some kind of colorwork project and you would like to have a knit along for that. I would be happy to host something like that, so if you're interested, please let me know. And if there's not enough interest, and I don't know what enough interest would be, since there's hardly any viewers, but if there's at least one or two of you that would be interested, then please let me know, and I will be happy to host a knit along. But I have a question for any of the knitters who have any experience with yarn that is bleeding. So, some time ago, I've been knitting these socks. I think it was around May last year, or well, around that time, I guess. And these are Bjørg Knestrømper, a pattern by Britta Mikkelberg, a Norwegian designer. I'm sorry if I completely pronounced this name wrong. I don't know how to speak Norwegian. But that's my best try. Anyway, as much as I love the pattern of these socks, the yarn, and this is Drops Fable, which makes me kind of worried because it's the same yarn that I've been using for my blanket, has continued to bleed every time. Like, if I let it soak in my this little top, and I put the lukewarm water in, and a little bit of the wool wash that I use, Eucalan, it continues to give me like bright blue water. And it's not like I've washed it only once or twice. I think I must have washed it like somewhere between 10 and 20 times by now. I've tried putting in vinegar, and still it continues to bleed, and I don't know what to do about it. So if you have any suggestions on how to have yarn stop from bleeding, because this used to be natural white and it's some kind of light blue now. It's not very ugly because luckily it turned out to be something that is like spread over the entire white bit and not only at the borders, but it just continues to bleed, and I want to stop. I want to be able to throw it in a wash with all the other laundry and not worry about everything turning blue. As much as I like blue, I don't want my white things to turn blue. I don't want my red things to turn blue or purple or whatever. I really like my knitted items to stay true to their colors. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. So with this question at the end, I think that may be easier for you guys to remember, like watch the entire episode and then answer a question. Seems easier than if I pop this question somewhere halfway. I think I've come to an end of this episode, and once again, thank you so much for joining me. It has been lovely to talk to you again on this lovely springy day, and I hope you have a very nice holiday weekend. If you have a longer weekend or anything, please enjoy that. You all deserve some time off, I guess. If not, then you're probably some kind of hero that works on through the holidays, and that's even more amazing, I'd say. So, have a lovely time, have a good knitting, and I hope to see you next week. Bye!